Good evening. We've got one person in the chat, PulseChain. One person at least. We're live on Spaces, so I will join the space. Good day.
What's up, Banana? How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good.
Super.
Mellow day today.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the holidays, because like I'll drive into town to go to my office and, just mess around and, work. But nobody's here. Nobody's at the bank. Nobody's in the office building. The streets are quiet. It's nice and quiet for a change.
Yeah, the roads are usually pretty empty, so you're getting places quicker.
Yeah. Well, you have to deal with traffic where you live. I don't deal with traffic where I live. You
don't have traffic like that.
No. Yeah, we don't have traffic. I'm in a town of 4,000 to 6,000. You can go all the way around 360 degrees, and you can go out 60 miles all the way around, and there aren't even 10,000 people. That's how remote I am.
That's nice, though.
It is. It's wonderful, actually. It's wonderful. Like, I knew this guy like a couple weeks ago. He died on the interstate between here and the next big town. And I'm like, and my daughter's telling me this story. I'm like, how do you die on the interstate in this rural part of, between here and the next big town? Well, because there is no traffic. I mean, you could drive 100 miles an hour and you just easily just navigate any kind of, if you want to call it traffic. Well, I think I figured out what happened. He didn't just die in an accident. He made an accident happen, if you follow me. So yeah, that solved the mystery. Because I'm like, how do you do that out here? But yeah,
that does sound nice that it's so calm out there and stuff like that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I'm thankful that I get to work in this digital industry. I always wanted to have something I could do, in this remote location. And here we are doing it, man. It just took a few tries.
Yeah, it's nice when you're tapping into an industry that's not based in that town, right? It's a global industry.
Mm-hmm.
So you can live ultimately anywhere. You're not worried about what economic value is flowing through the town, technically.
Yes. And oddly, I always sought for something that would pay me like right now or, in a short amount of time. But what we're doing is it's not paying us directly, at least right now. Well, I guess in a sense with the fees, but down the line, downstream is where, and I don't think you, like me, do it for that, but there is that benefit. We don't do it for the reason of, economic gain for ourselves. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure you're in the same boat. You just like to let other people know about these fabulous machines on PulseChain. I think you're about the same. I talked to a gal today, actually, that she heard about the Gray's currencies on my channel. And I've been talking to her for like a few days, and it finally came out. So, I learned about pTGC from your channel. And I was like, wow, that's cool. I'm so happy for her because I think these currencies are going to do so well. And then everybody that hears about them is going to make great gains. So I'm happy for anybody that gets in. Besides what happened to my bags, you know what I mean? Are you there? Did I lose you? Are you muted? We may have lost Zen, the pTGC Yoda. Let me see what's going on here. I don't hear anything, guys. Mando, can you hear me? Let's see who else can. Everybody's a listener. Yeah, you guys. Okay. I got a thumbs up. Maybe that means you guys can hear me. We might need to restart the spaces. Polygon can hear me, but that's on YouTube. Appreciate that nevertheless. Because that I'm gonna message. Something's happening. My mic is on. You're muted. Yeah, we ended the space. Okay, he's gonna make another one. Bummers. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. Oh, he's going to drop it in the chat. Happens every now and again. We have an issue with X. So we just got to be patient and wait for that. Wait for the space. Let me think here. You guys patiently waiting on YouTube? Did I go turkey hunting this year? I didn't. I have never hunted turkeys. I've seen them, wild turkeys. But no, I've never hunted them. Let me see. PulseTGC. I'll move this over here. 40 seconds ago. Yeah. Right on with the light on. Forgot to put the YouTube in the. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now. I don't know if you're hearing me at all or what, but I lost you completely.
Oh, you lost me.
Yeah, I stopped hearing everything. Did you stop hearing me?
Yeah, you dropped out. We stopped hearing each other. I wonder if I dropped. Okay. So maybe next time I should drop out and come back in. I didn't even think of that. I'm sorry. I should have.
Yeah, I was trying to tell you to drop down and try to come back up, but obviously you couldn't hear me.
What? Right. Next time, message me in Telegram, because I always monitor Telegram when we're in a situation like that.
Yeah, I didn't even shut it down. It just shut down on me too after 2 minutes. So,
okay.
I don't know.
Okay, cool. And I forgot to put
it might have been on my end because usually I turn myself on cellular when I'm doing these, and today I forgot. So that might have done it, or I don't know. But now I'm on cellular, so
okay.
It's better.
Yeah. All right. And I forgot to put the links in the Telegram. I came straight to my office from somewhere and just kind of get distracted,
Yeah. No, throw the links in the TG. Kind of wait a second, see if people find this one now.
Oh, whoops! I sent you the link. I'll put it in the TG. Hey, that video, however corny it was, and it was corny with the alien dads. It has 2,600 impressions. It was corny too.
Yeah, corny's okay once in a while.
Yeah, I just got a little bit of FOMO in me. I didn't want to wait, so I was like, I'm dropping it. Sometimes done is better than perfect, you know?
Yeah, I think, the joke was fun and pretty relatable for some. So.
Yeah, some, especially dads.
Did AI write the joke for you, or did you come up with it?
Oh, it was totally AI. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, was there any news that happened today? I mean, it has been quiet for 2 weeks. I'm trying to recall if there was anything extraordinary that happened today or in the last couple of few days since Saturday.
Yeah, I don't think there was anything too exciting. I think we have another on-ramp for PulseChain, which is nice, which I don't think you can use in the United States, but...
And what is that?
I think it's called Ramp Now.
Yep. Okay. Yep. I think I wrote that down earlier today. Sounds familiar.
So we have that. I saw Richard made a tweet saying, like, you have to earn problems for the future by doing something in the present or something like that. I forget what it is now. We can go over it.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to Ramp now for the first time. So do you know anything about this?
I know nothing about it.
It says buy and sell crypto with ease, seamlessly on-ramp and off-ramp cryptocurrencies anytime, anywhere. Currently do not offer service in my region, which is easy workaround. Use a VPN. Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, I learned about that from one of the channels that I listened to. So that's cool because then you don't have to bridge over from Ethereum or bridge out from PulseChain, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's so on the new website, whenever I get this thing done, which is still quite a bit out actually, I wanted to do an on-ramping page, and that's kind of what I'm holding off till last because I feel like there's going to be a really good solution here soon. And I don't even think this is the really good solution because obviously
okay.
I'm based out of the United States. So I'm kind of trying to come up with a solution that is like the way to do it for anyone anywhere, not like this solution where it's like, okay, you're good, but you need a VPN and all this kind of stuff. I guess that's fine, but you know, I was hoping for a better process by the time this website came out. If not, I'd probably just make it to where it's a step-by-step process through the way I always bring people in, which is, you know, get ETH on Coinbase, send it to a MetaMask, then, you know, trade that ETH for WPLS on Uniswap, then send the WPLS across the bridge, you know, just so they land with Pulse on the other side. I think there is faucets that are funded now. It just kind of sucks because they sometimes dry up and then, you know, you have to kind of go a different route for people. And I'm trying to come up with a well written out thing with maybe get some videos put in there and stuff like that to really help people when the masses start actually wanting to come to PulseChain and have that done. If there was a ramp now that also, well, you know, I guess I could just put a link to a VPN site that's fairly cheap or free for people to use temporarily or something like that. I guess would be an easy solution.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at Richard Hart's post. He says, one must earn the problems of the future by conquering the problems of the present. Earn the problems of the future. That sounds like he's taking on more or willing to take on more responsibility, which happens as we age. It almost seems like we take on more up to a certain point, and then we have to start, you know, undoing the burdens of life. But that's how I'm reading this. And I ran it through Grok. So Grok says, this statement aligns with Hart's broader advocacy. And I'll just want your feedback on this. It aligns with Hart's broader advocacy for resilience and innovation in crypto, as seen in his projects focus on unique reward systems and his public stance on freedom of speech and longevity. though his methods have drawn controversy, with some labeling Hex a potential Ponzi scheme due to its structure. Let's see. Posted on, today's date, amid ongoing debates about crypto regulation, evidenced by Hart's 2023 bio changes to distance himself from Hex and PulseChain during SEC scrutiny. This reflects his strategic focus on navigating present legal and community challenges to secure his project's future. That helped me.
I would say that's probably not exactly accurate what he's talking about. I think, you know what I mean? When you go to conquer new goals, you can either, or when you set goals or you're trying to align yourself with your future, you could obviously just give up on those goals and have no problems in the future, right? You just stop trying to work in that direction. Richard could have easily just not created his own blockchain, not tried to beat the SEC, not, created his own DEX. He could have just said, hey guys, Ethereum isn't working that great for us. Not really our fault, but I'm kind of done here. I'm a multi-millionaire. But instead, he technically started working in a different direction, tried to solve some of the problems in front of him, which then just earned himself more problems, right? By solving the problems that he had, he then worked himself into future problems.
Yes.
And when he solves those problems, he's most likely going to work himself into more future problems. That's just kind of how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yep, because you gain ability as you get more experience, and then you can take on more responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah, usually solutions, when you make a solution happen, it usually drives you down a path of more problems, but then you have to come up with more solutions. And what the end goal of problems and solutions is, I think in Richard Hart's case, is he runs across these problems, and then his solutions are like, hey, I'm going to build it, and I'm going to build it better, or hey, I'm going to beat this, and then I'm going to be clear of the SEC, which the end result of it is actually really, really powerful. That means our one single ecosystem, or Richard Hart in general, like completely controls his own space in crypto. I'm trying to think of the best word. Like, he doesn't actually need a chain to work best with his products, because he's just building the chain that works best with his products. And then he doesn't need a DEX that keeps listing him, because he just makes his own DEX that he knows is going to list him, and actually uses the fees that his own community that he's built is generating. Instead of enriching different people, he's actually enriching his own community. And then he's even made the comments like, hey, if some of these centralized exchanges don't just start playing ball with me, I'm going to have to just make my own centralized exchange. So it's definitely very, very interesting. The cool thing for us, the PulseChain community, is like, the more difficult they make it for Richard, it in short term is technically probably hurting our price, but in long term, it's actually probably making us a way better ecosystem.
Yeah.
Because it's just forcing Richard to actually make all these products that in a normal situation would just come here and then also like siphon value off of the ecosystem. But since he's just having to make all the products, he's like making it to where it's like, a good portion of the value that's being generated from these things that he's creating, these apps, these dApps, are actually just going back into the ecosystem, making them more sustainable and technically giving them more fundamentals. Kind of cracking a few eggs before making an omelet situation.
Right. Well, there are some people that buckle under pressure and when challenged with, demands, but Richard Hart is not one of those people. He will rise to challenges.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Man, I want to talk to you about a slide I'm trying to create, but I don't know if I can convey everything to you. It's based on It's based on the post that I put up on Twitter last week. You know, we found that between August and April, August of last year and this last April, PulseChain's volume 3x'd and its price dropped 38%. But in the same time frame, pTGC's volume 8x'd and its price increased by 533%. So I was playing around with, you know, putting some of those figures into ChatGPT because I can leverage that AI platform to help figure out some of the numbers. You know, it's just ratios really, and I can do it in a spreadsheet. But I just used ChatGPT. But let me try to summarize this to you. So if PulseChain volume did a 10x based on that data from August to April, if PulseChain volume 10x's, pTGC's volume, if it was just straight across the same, it'd be 80x or $6.9 million in volume. And that means, of course, that the rewards would also 80x. So my question is, you know, what kind of volume could PulseChain do? And I put that into ChatGPT or Grok, one or the other, and it said something somewhere between 10 and 50 as kind of a moderate, 100x as a more optimistic increase in volume. But, you know, at just a 10x of PulseChain volume, pTGC's volume would 80x based on that August to April data.
Yeah, so how I would kind of look at it, and I didn't type this in anywhere, but you're saying that PulseChain's volume 3x and pTGC's volume 8x, which is pretty much less than a 3x multiplier. 9x would be times 3. So I would probably just use the times 3 number, or you could do like times 2.5 or whatever, but let's use times 3 for simplicity purposes. I would more think, okay, if volume on PulseChain 10x, then pTGC's volume was 30x. I don't think I would go 80x necessarily, because that's not how those numbers were working out.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Run that by me again, please.
You just said that since April or since August, the PulseChain volume has 3x and the pTGC volume has 8x.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
And then you're saying, well, what if PulseChain's volume 10x?
Yes. Yep.
So technically, when at 3x, we were 8x, which is ultimately times 3 less. Obviously, 9x would be times 3. I just don't know the exact number.
Yeah.
So you could just pull that times 3. And again, this is like just estimating off of equal growth. I would think it'd be closer to the 30x number, not an 80x number. Obviously, we've seen when PulseChain's price goes up, obviously the volume increases as well, which then also makes pTGC's price increase, which then also makes pTGC's volume increase as well. But I wouldn't like multiply it 8x, because that's not what that ratio did in the last 8 months, right? It only like 3x.
Okay.
If you're trying to like create scenarios based on data, I don't think ChatGPT is taking the data right. Is kind of where I guess what I'm getting at.
All right. Cool. Thank you for that perspective. What I did notice, I don't know if you've noticed this from look into pTGC. If you go to the moon math, I think everybody has. Well, yeah, everybody has access to the moon math, but you can't. Not everybody can click on. I'm going to get my eyes on it here real quick. Oh, I'm sorry. It's on the dashboard. Look into ptgc.com dashboard. If you scroll down and select view charts, then you can, give me a second. I'm going to log in. You can look at an overlay of price over volume. And what's really interesting that I discovered when I was looking at those is that whenever volume peaks, right after volume peaks, price peaks almost every single time. Have you noticed that?
I know that volume and price and liquidity are directly correlated with each other. So when liquidity is rising on chain, that's due to RH tickers rising on chain, which then increases our volume, which then also increases our price due to connectedness and bondedness with RH tickers, along with our machine turning on, which then creates more volume, which then helps with the buy and burn, etc. So like all those things, the chain's volume, the chain's prices, and the chain's liquidity are all directly correlated with pTGC's price, volume, and liquidity due to how LP pairs work, and then also due to the fact that we're an index of the entire chain pretty much.
Right. Okay.
But it's nice to see that on a chart, right? I don't know if that you're showing it on your screen for anyone watching on YouTube. How we were doing it in the past before Kong made this awesome site for us is we were just overlaying the liquidity charts, the volume charts, and the price charts kind of all stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
And like aligning the months, and you could just see how directly correlated they are all with each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. On this side, I can only see pTGC's price and volume. I don't have the ability to overlay PulseChain, although that would be interesting. That might be that might be a reasonable request for this site.
Yeah, it's directly correlated as well, right? Because when prices rise on chain, that means liquidity is rising on chain because the value in the liquidity pools are becoming more expensive. They're going up in price, which then raises the liquidity, which then makes it to where market makers and people, humans, need to move more money, which actually just automatically increases the volume as well. And then that obviously correlates directly to our system. Since our system is so connected with the RH system, it's technically got tens of millions of dollars of value connecting it between it and the blue chips of the chain, between pTGC and UFO. It directly reflects each other.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's I'm looking at it right now, and it's a little bit like oftentimes it is very correlated, the price and volume. But when we hit the all-time high on February 3rd, the all-time high of volume, which was $2.1 million, the price topped out, let me see, 8 days later, we had an all-time high and then came down along with volume.
Yeah, it's not going to be the exact date. It's going to be like in a range, right?
Okay, yeah. Most of the times the ranges are pretty tight, but that one time it was more than a week. It's just an interesting little, I don't know. This information is it's interesting, man, to watch the market move. What more can you say?
It definitely is. It's definitely took up a lot of my mind share just thinking about when adoption comes to PulseChain, when adoption comes to crypto in general, when money just starts flowing into crypto. Like even though, like in general, a lot of money hasn't been flowing into crypto for a very long time. Like Bitcoin hitting its all-time highs isn't really from retail coming into crypto. It's from pretty much the ETFs and large players like Michael Saylor, BlackRock buying crypto, right? And those people aren't rotating into alts for the most part, like retail normally will. And so on ETH, obviously the chart speaks for it. You know, it hasn't hit all-time highs, even with Bitcoin blasting through all-time highs, which then correlates down to assets like PulseChain, and then that also will correlate down to assets like pTGC and UFO. So really no money's been flowing into crypto. We haven't had like a real market push yet. But when the market starts to get adoption, as crypto gets adoption from retail, And everything that we've seen on the chart, if PulseChain does what we believe it will, mechanically, mathematically, pTGC is going to explode, is what we're finding.
Yeah.
And it's already such a scarce asset already, right? We've seen how it's acted in these scenarios like 3 times now. Every time a little bit of money flows into PulseChain, you know, more than $1 million, like, you know, like a 5-10 million, you know, 10 million technically would push us up 10x on PulseChain right now. If we had a net flow of 10 million, that alone would be amazing for the pTGC ecosystem, and that's still in general small numbers. So you kind of start to run the numbers of what an actual amount of net flow into PulseChain would do for the pTGC ecosystem, especially if it's coming from retail and not just Richard, right? I would actually prefer retail, because retail will most likely speculate on other alt tokens such as pTGC and UFO, to where, to be honest, I don't see Richard speculating on other assets that aren't his. I just see him pumping his assets. For us, we win either way, right? If he pumps his assets, we get all those X's of those assets along with all that liquidity as that equal ratio move up, to where if it's the other way, if money flows into alts, well, that's awesome too, because, you know, a portion of those funds are going to find value in holding pTGC and UFO most likely.
Right.
And if you think about, there's pretty much only 3% or less of the supply of pTGC even for purchase. The majority of the supply of pTGC is pretty much held by players that have been here for a very long time, or the debt address, or the new players that have came in who have found value in it, because we've done a lot of corrections, and obviously anyone here that's left is either a new holder, which, you know, we're trying to educate and welcome with open arms and show them what this system is, or it's long-term believers that actually understand the system and believe in it. And now when adoption comes to PulseChain, right now there's only 3% of the supply on the market for pretty much the entire world.
Mm-hmm. Rolando has a question. He says, I burned Zen for pTGC day 1. It was by far my biggest ROI for burning Zen. My question is, how much did attaching TGC to Zen burn play a role in the success of pTGC? Any plans to integrate to X1?
So as far as its success, I think we got a few, like a good handful of really solid community members off of the Zen burn to get your pTGC airdrops pretty much, which is worth a lot alone, right? Being able to build the community of pTGC. One of the other big benefits of doing it with the Zen burn is it created a very, very fair and equal distribution process from the beginning. And that was one of the main reasons I've used it, is it created a scenario where like anyone had the opportunity to burn something they minted for free, which is kind of a cool idea, is you could mint your Zen for free, technically with just gas. And then if you burned it, you technically got this other asset for free, which was pTGC. And it was actually distributed in a pretty fair way. To where I think that process also made pTGC very, very successful as well, because it made that initial purchase to a group of people a lot more distributed from the beginning than a lot of other assets that possibly get sniped and then dumped on, or, you know, and stuff like that. As far as integration with X1, I just don't know a lot about it yet. I don't think there's been tons of information released. Definitely my main focus is pTGC and UFO on PulseChain. That's where I'm kind of putting my heart right now. That's where I'm putting all my efforts right now. And I believe there's something big coming for PulseChain. And that's where I've been spending a lot of my time and effort. And that's kind of just where I'm currently at, is I don't want to spread economic energy and my own time much more than I already feel spread, due to the fact that I have kids and work and a wife, and then now these two babies, pTGC and UFO.
Mm-hmm.
So if I spread myself even thinner, my community thinner, sometimes that directly hurts price. But I would have to look more into stuff like that once that blockchain launches. But right now, I do believe in PulseChain, and I do believe PulseChain offers a very, very unique situation to where this system can thrive more than people. Like, the situation that's set up here on PulseChain can create an asset that literally is a revolution to how finance is done, how assets are on chain. I don't know of another blockchain that's set up in that specific way, and I don't know if X1 will be set up in a way that we could leverage that as much as we were able to leverage it here on PulseChain. And It doesn't necessarily make sense to launch another product if that other product isn't going to supersede the first product. Then what you're doing is you're kind of creating like sequel after sequel after sequel, but then you're never like outperforming that first movie, right? And we kind of know how those trilogies end.
Yes.
It's kind of like, why did they keep going? You know,
you could end up fractionalizing your economic energy and your time. You know, fractionalizing a community that way. Yeah, proceeding to another chain would have to be done very, very carefully. You know.
Yeah. Right now, I just want it to be clear that my main focus is pTGC and UFO. As big as I can make it, and as big as we can make it as a community on PulseChain.
You built the financial machines, like the smart contracts. Now you're building the community and educating the community, because they have to be a machine on their own in order to drive adoption.
Yeah, if no one knows about it, right, it doesn't do any good. You can have the world's best this or that and all the liquidity, but if no one else believes in it / no one even knows it exists, and I get that, you know, we have 3,000 people that hold $1,000 at pTGC, and that's maybe better than most products that do exist on the blockchain, 99% of stuff. But in the real, like, grand scheme of things, is no one knows we exist. You know, we're on a chain no one knows about. In crypto, which really, when you ask general public people, no one even knows about crypto as far as real DeFi goes. Maybe they know of Bitcoin and Ethereum, but that's pretty surface level for most people, right? Their knowledge kind of ends there. So I just think we have so much scalability to do, so much educating to do, and I think we're kind of just starting, right? Like, I feel like we're finally just getting the okay from the government, and we're getting finally just the adoption from mainstream media in crypto in general, to where what that means is this cycle, maybe the next cycle, is really when we start getting the adoption. And I do think there's going to be products that shine, and I want pTGC to be one of those products, as not only a product that is trustless, but it also has a good community that actually educates people in the right manner on the right things and doesn't steer people in the wrong direction. Because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of that going on.
Oh yeah. Every time I hear about a new project or something, I just about want to pull my hair out. How many do we need? It's almost like there is, I like innovation. I like tech and new things. And it's like, I just kind of wish we could eliminate 2 out of 3 new projects and just make that third one that much better. You know,
I know, trust me. It's pretty much why I spent multiple years building pTGC, is that exact reason.
There you go. Well done. Rolando, on that note, thanks us for addressing his question. He says he loves the project, appreciates you. And by the way, he says TGC onboarded him into PulseChain, so he's grateful. And let's see, he says, I agree, PulseChain is undervalued. That's why I'm locked in for years. Great answer. And he appreciates the focused energy, as do I.
Yeah, I think if we're really trying to make a difference and we're really trying to change generational wealth, change how finance works, really do a revolution, thousands of different iterations of PTGC is not the solution to that.
Yeah.
It's just my personal opinion. I definitely think that's a quick way to make some extra cash, but that's not the point. Success isn't necessarily about making a couple bucks. Success is about making a difference. And by making a difference, I think it's important to stand behind the product that you believe in and keep working on educating people on that specific product, even if it's a little bit harder to get to the next levels. But the next levels have that much more juice to the squeeze, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit harder to get to the next level, but the reward after that next journey is, I believe, because I haven't gotten there yet, and we haven't gotten there yet as a community. But I think it's going to be very, very plentiful for our community as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm excited. Very excited to see what happens. Because I've seen enough. I've been in this thing for over a year, and I'm excited to see the volume having increased and the price having increased, and with PulseChain, all of that happening while PulseChain has just been going sideways practically. So I can only envision what's going to happen when PulseChain moves. It's probably going to be pretty epic.
Yeah, I can feel, I feel the snowball getting bigger. I feel the momentum building, and it's not visually happening right now, but I've witnessed this a total of probably 3 times in PTGC, where you can see the machine and the metrics going. It's just the price chart necessarily isn't going up at that moment, and the volume isn't going up at that moment, because you are currently on the down escalator, right? But very quickly, that escalator either turns off or starts moving in the right direction, and you're that much more powerful for that next push in the right direction. And then you go up for a little bit, and then the escalator flips on you again. We've witnessed this 3 times as well. Yeah. And you're in that rut where it kind of brings you back a little bit. You're kind of stuck in a spot for a second. But what we're doing is, when we're stuck in this second, our legs are getting stronger, and we're becoming more powerful. So when the next time it flips in the right direction again for us, we're moving up that much quicker. Our community is that much stronger. Our liquidity is that much thicker. Our volume is that much higher. And it helps us get to that next level that we're looking to get
to. Yep. Who wants to come up and talk? Who's got some insight or some news or a question?
I'm bringing MVS Crypto up right now. It says connecting. What's going on, MVS?
Oh, hello. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing good.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing much better now talking to you.
Welcome up.
Thank you for having me. I just wanted to give a shout out to you guys for all the work you do. I also released this week's edition of the Monster Thread, and I made sure to add you guys in the past 2 editions. So, yeah, if you guys would like to just check it out and like, retweet, all the jazz. Also give me your feedback if you like it, what should be better for the future editions, so I can always improve it as I go.
Yeah, no problem. Maybe for everyone listening, maybe a couple people don't know about it. You can give a little rundown of what that is. I think I know. I think I've seen it once. It's a thread that you kind of give an update of everything that's going on in the past week with some of the top communities.
Yeah, that pretty much nails it. It's just a little newsletter format of all, just recapping all the biggest news of the week related to PulseChain. I also try to tie some subjects outside of the chain back to PulseChain, such as the Sui hack and Whenever somebody makes a comment about Richard from another community, I put them into our headline that would maybe attract eyes from their community to come check it out. What I'm saying about them, and just little things like that to try to get eyes into PulseChain every week.
Yeah, that's awesome. The onboarding process. There's so many different. So that's another way of doing it. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I just gotta pump content all the time and get into the trenches and onboard. All right, I'm gonna just post it in the nest here if you guys don't mind. Yeah, just if you're gonna check it out, just feel free to check it out. Thank you for having me, by the way.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming up.
Have a nice day.
You too.
Who else wants to come up?
Yeah, this space is for your questions, give feedback on anything. I actually had someone kind of messaging back and forth in the comments with me saying that we need to remind users about when you are staked and locked that the tokens are in their wallet. Okay. Because so while we wait for anyone to raise their hand and come up, I'm going to just spend a second kind of running through this. It's very confusing to a lot of people. I understand, because pretty much all of crypto is not designed in this manner. When you're in the pTGC and technically UFO, but let's keep it pTGC for this combo because it's the one people have difficulties with. When you decide to stake and lock your tokens, the tokens actually remain in your wallet. We don't send your tokens to a smart contract because we want you to have self-custody of your assets, and you actually should have self-custody of your assets. This does become confusing because what happens is people will buy a bag of pTGC and they'll stake and lock it out. And then 6 months goes by, they look at their wallet and they say, oh, I'm up, or, I'm down and I'm going to take, or I'm down, and I'm going to take some profits, or I'm up a lot and I'm going to take profits. And they're trying to sell and it won't let them sell, and they get frustrated and they don't know what's going on. They have to think back and say, oh yes, I did lock up my tokens and I did stake my tokens. So what you have to do, if you do want to sell those tokens that you have locked and staked, or a portion of them, you have to unlock those tokens. So that would be the first step. And then you have to withdraw your stake. When you unlock, you have to actually unlock the whole amount, whatever's in that lock. It's a whole package, pretty similar to Hex. When you unstake, you can actually pick a portion. So let's say you only wanted to only sell 50% of your assets. You can actually just withdraw 50% of your assets from the staking. And what that then does is it makes your tokens free to then sell. When you're trying to sell them, the contract actually puts a blocker on it, making it to where you're actually unable to sell your tokens when you're staked or locked. So it's nothing wrong with the contract. It's just user error. And I understand that it's probably frustrating and it's hard to remember when you're doing a bunch of things. So I just kind of wanted to walk people through that. If you're having an issue with selling, you most likely are staked and locked, and just go back to the DApp, or you can interact with the smart contracts. Not even with the DApp if you know how, or even Kong has his own DApp, and you just have to unlock it, and then you have to withdraw those tokens that you want to sell. It's really, really easy once you kind of calm down and remember what you possibly did 6 months ago, or a year ago, or whatnot.
We see it all the time in the chat. People trying to sell their tokens or move them, and well, they're staked, but you can see them in the wallet. So it looks like
I get it's confusing, right? You're just skimming through your wallet and you're like, oh, I have these here, and then you try it. But just remember what you did with your finances a long time ago, and it becomes very clear.
Okay, let me call it a minor inconvenience. It might be maybe a little more than minor for some people. However, everybody that had a scammed or a hacked wallet, who the hacker wasn't able to access the tokens because they didn't realize that they had to end stake, everybody that was saved by that is very thankful.
Yeah, we've seen a number of people whose wallets have gotten compromised, and their entire wallets have been drained by the scammer that compromised their wallets, but their pTGC has actually remained safe because they actually staked and locked their tickers or their tokens, and the scammer couldn't figure out how to release those tokens from the lock and the stake. So that user was actually able to go back into that wallet and unlock and then unstake their tokens and send those tokens to a clean wallet. And really, in the design, it wasn't done that way on purpose. It's just one of those things that just worked out beautifully. And it's super good for the user, right? But it's also good for the rest of the pTGC community, because what that does is, if someone in the community technically gets their wallet compromised, those tokens don't always end up in the scammer's hands, because what the scammer does is he just sells them instantly.
Yeah.
Usually. Yeah.
So I will put up with the questions in the chat of people claiming that they can't sell their tokens for the people that are getting saved, their wallets, saved from hackers not understanding how to move those tokens. I think that's stinking cool, man. That is so amazing.
Yeah. So if you ever see anyone having issues and they're posting about it, just chime in there and say, hey, most likely you're staked and locked. We're usually right off the bat, they fight back. This is what normally happens. They say, I'm not staked and locked. I never did that. And then you're like, no, let me just tell you again. Go to the tab. You'll see them in there. And then they're like, yeah, you're right. I forgot. And it's just like, okay.
Yeah. It's okay.
We're laughing because we've done it like 100 times now, so it's just kind of comical.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all good. At least people aren't losing their tokens.
Yeah.
Rolando asks, "What do you guys think on that SUI rollback and how it relates to PulseChain, Nakamoto, and the Nakamoto coefficient?" I don't know what the Nakamoto coefficient is. Probably has something to do with Bitcoin, right? Nakamoto. What do you know anything about the SUI rollback? I didn't know they rolled back the chain.
I don't know anything about it, to be honest.
Maybe they did.
Maybe they're thinking of rolling it back, or I saw that they stopped transactions in general, or they targeted the specific address and wouldn't let the user who hacked them transact anymore, which is obviously a form of censorship in a way. I technically get why they did it. The guy robbed them, but some people don't like that because it shows that the whole thing isn't really real DeFi, and pretty much they could put a block on anyone's wallet at that point. But
it looks like they haven't rolled back the SUI chain. Maybe they're thinking about it, but they haven't. Well, what else? Trying to think. Was it some what do you call them? What Trump is doing with the not taxes, but what do you call them? The import duties or whatever it is.
The tariff.
Was it the European tariff that caused Bitcoin to cool down a little bit?
I believe so. I think it was moving back up today. I haven't looked at the charts too much, but I saw it had a little green, and I saw Bitcoin, I think, got back over the 109 number.
Yep.
So
at one point it was up like 2%, I think. Now it's at it's about 108 right now. Bitcoin is. Ethereum's at 2,500. PulseChain's 404. So yeah, slowed back down a little bit.
It is nice to see PulseChain making its way back up, right?
Yeah.
It's not super quick, like it's a slow grind, but it is nice to see us break off of that floor, that new floor that we created, and actually break through the all-time low that we've tapped 2 times prior and continue above it and actually hold it. I think it is very important for our ecosystem to hold above that floor and hopefully break into higher levels here soon.
Yeah.
And market-wise, we should be, judging by the time and where we're at, and Bitcoin passing all-time highs, and hopefully us having an altcoin season soon. So I think it's all lining up. I think a lot of people want it quicker, but it is nice to see us working in the right direction now.
Yeah. The last time that PulseChain did a 4x, pTGC did a 42x. Well, I did a measurement from the bottom, and the bottom is 4025 for Pulse. 4025 times 4 is 301. So I've got a yellow sticky note on my monitor to remind me that when PulseChain hits 301, I want to see what I want to see what pTGC did against PulseChain. Because that'll be interesting. Hopefully we do even more. But
it'll definitely be nice to get PulseChain not only working in the right direction, but that would then mean it broke the spot we got stuck at last time. I think that was around January, the 0.0040885 or something like that. And if we can break that level, that would be nice.
Yeah.
To carry on past that, because we haven't broken that SAC rate number since over a year. Yeah, over a year.
Yeah.
Got to set those milestones and just start working at them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was actually, hold up a second. That was the 11th of March. Well, early March. I'm looking at the weekly. So when PulseChain topped at 3017, that was early March. So let's do it again. Let's just go beyond. Let's break through that pressure and go beyond that. That's what I want.
Yeah, there's been a lot that's happened since then, right? Like, we now are completely clear from the SEC. PulseX has more of its supply bought and burnt more than ever. Hex's inflation has been cut drastically. Ink's inflation has been cut drastically. Liquidity has been pulled massively from the chain, making it actually very, very easy to get to those levels. And personally, I believe a lot of the sell pressure has been rinsed as well.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people had shorter mind spans for PulseChain, and currently, since we went a whole nother year at these low levels than a lot of people wanted, I think a lot of the sell pressure has been rinsed. I think there has been good onboarding going on. I think the onboarding is hard to see because I think there was a good amount of sell pressure that had to go. And hopefully on this next move up, we can see in the chart that sell pressure has been removed. I think this goes for any ecosystem, right? Like, even you can speak of pTGC. Like, every time we go to a new floor, we do hit levels that people are willing to take profits at. And then you have to the system has to give those people their profits. Yep. Usually a consolidation. And what's nice is during that time, the tokens of pTGC are just getting redistributed to stronger hands, new community members, and then a ton of them is being bought and burnt off the market. And that's just what has to happen. Think about how many times Bitcoin's had to do that in the last 12 years.
Yeah.
But it's also fun to think about the people who have won the hardest with Bitcoin are the people who have stayed the longest.
Yeah, there are not too many people that held their Bitcoin more than a decade.
There isn't things in the Bitcoin code that actually push you in the direction of holding it long term.
Yeah. versus PTDC, we're being pushed in the direction of holding for a number of reasons.
Yeah, we have things written within the code to do it. We have a fully deflationary supply, so you don't even have to worry about there's a lot of features within the protocol that should give a lot of security in long-term holding. I think as we grow, those parts of code will really start to shine. I think we're still in the adoption phase of this chain and of pTGC in general. Like we talked about, 3,000 people hold $1,000 of pTGC. That's ultimately nothing. But I think those very unique parts of the ecosystem, the fact that you get paid to hold, the fact that when you're holding, you're earning more pTGC. By holding, you're actually mining yourself more. You can lock out times and you're getting rewarded for doing so. And on top of that, you don't have to worry about future tokens coming out to possibly be released on top of you. So it's actually the opposite. You actually get to lean on the fact that every day there's less of the supply.
Mm-hmm. And when there's less supply, we actually are earning more tokens in yield, which is just mind-boggling. As the supply reduces, the holders are earning more yield. Like everybody actually is earning more yield today for whatever principal you hold than you were at this time last month. You're earning more. It may not be much, but day after day, it adds up. And it would be interesting to quantify how much more. I wonder if you could figure that out. Here I go again. How can you figure out?
Very, very small number.
Yeah, but
right, but I get what you're saying. It's interesting. Where I think it will really start to make sense is as price goes up, as adoption happens, as, yes, what you're saying, the supply keeps deflating, so you keep earning more percentage of the APY that's getting paid out. Well, technically, your APY should increase as well as the chain gets adoption and as the price of the pTGC asset continues to increase. Because as the pTGC price increases, most likely the volume is going to increase, which then in turn equals your APY increasing. And as everyone's APY increasing, that actually gives every user more incentive to not touch any of their initial supply. Because their initial supply is what's paying them that APY. And then they get to make the decision, do I want to tap into my initial? Do I want to do what I can to live off of just what the APY is? Yeah. Do I want to own full APY or a portion? But the more pTGC goes up, the early players who are able to go up with it, who have actually been incentivized to remain, it gives them the ability to hold on to the majority of their position a lot easier. Because the dollar value that it's printing for them becomes more and more and more. And if it becomes more, you're given a better shot to not tap into your initials. And there's more sustainability and, probably more conviction as we grow as well.
Zen, I want to go back to what you were talking about the other day. And when I was talking about the last space we had, just regarding the fact that, with Bitcoin, you're creating more tokens. With ETH, you're creating more tokens. With Hex, you're creating more tokens. So you have these inflationary aspects, but there's a trade-off between being promised APY from an inflationary system and holding a cryptocurrency that pays you APY based on volume and volatility and activity on the actual project. That trade-off being that those tokens actually are miners. So I don't have to set up a node. I don't have to set up a validator. I don't have to set up a miner with rigs and ASIC miners. pTGC is unique in the sense that the trade-off is that we get more miners as those miners are becoming deflationary. And the volume is what the volume is. But when you see these waves of energy come into the chain, those miners become much more valuable in a very short time span. They become very desirable. And that's why that post you did the other day spoke to the uniqueness, kind of comparing Bitcoin with PTGC in that sense. But I really do piggyback back off that the fact that these tokens are miners, and these miners are going offline.
What do you mean that they're going offline?
I mean that every day, there are a certain amount of miners that have the ability to create, to give a holder more of those tokens. In the same way that with Bitcoin, a miner can come online and hash for a portion of a block reward, right? But with PTGC, there's never a new miner that can come online, right? Because there's constantly, the tokens themselves are the miners, but they're constantly every day being burned out of existence, and there's a set supply, and it's deflationary. Yeah. So you'll never have a new miner come into existence. And so for the life of the cryptocurrency, you are constantly, the reason why these tokens are so valuable is because every day more miners go offline. You can't mine for more than what you have in supply. And the value of those things on a trend, because of math, because more economic energy has to continue to fit into less and less tokens, and the price floor has to keep going up. The trade-off is like, you know, with Hex, you had a certain amount based off of a T-share rate. With ETH, you have, this is the average because of the inflation. So when you have an inflationary currency, you can predict what the payouts will be. Just like with a bond, or just like, you know, with anything where it's an inflationary currency, there's a payout, right? The difference here is that you have a hyper deflationary asset that itself is the miner. And because of that, you don't have a guaranteed rate of APY, but that's the very thing that puts the hyper trajectory trend line for the price going up as fast as it can go up, right? And that's the uniqueness of the PTGC token when you compare it to something like Bitcoin or Hex or ETH or PulseChain or something like that.
Yeah, another thing that's kind of interesting to think about, and I don't know the proper way to word it, but the halvings built within Bitcoin give Bitcoin more value, right? Like every time Bitcoin halves, it actually helps increase the price of Bitcoin, because what happens is the inflation rate gets constantly shrunk, making it to where that helps drive the value of Bitcoin out, because the amount of supply is getting reduced, technically tapping into the basics of supply and demand. If the demand just stays even, and then you cut the inflation in half, that technically helps increase the price. Well, if you think of PTGC as a miner, every single transaction is technically based on basic supply and demand, making those miners worth more money, because it's constantly taking miners away. You know, like today, for an example, probably only $1,000, $2,000, but every single day it's kind of working in that direction, making not a halving, but it's constantly deflating the miners that exist, right? And technically,
well, yeah, but at the same time, the algorithm, the SHA-256 algorithm, is making it so that miners have to constantly be upgrading the technology to mine, because it's costing that much more to actually get to a token unless miners are going offline, at which it'll self-regulate, right? And make it the hashing, it'll take less to do the same thing. But with PTGC, it's just so unique because my miners, it never costs me more to mine for the coins, and there's never more miners available to actually come online to actually mine the coins.
Yeah,
right?
you don't have to and you don't have to compete with future competition of inflation of miners, right? It's actually quite the opposite. You don't have any upgrades necessary, and every day you're actually competing with less.
Yeah, and just the other day I was doing a few swing trades, and I started a wallet that is literally just buying like even $5 at a time, $10 at a time, because I'm looking at, okay, that's giving me 10,000 PTGC for $5 or whatever it is, right? $3, $10. That's giving me 50,000. That's giving me, and given the fact that we were already at a 6x away from a penny, and that's 100x away from $1, I'm sitting here going, these tokens are so undervalued. Given the fact that we're headed into a cryptocurrency world, we're headed into a realm of cryptocurrencies over the next 10, 15, 20 years, that I think that PTGC on PulseChain is just being massively undervalued, just because the sentiment on chain and just a number of different things. But even if you just take, the small amounts, they start adding up. Like this wallet's already sitting at like 30 million PTGC. And it's like it got there without even doing anything, just by kind of like DCAing small bits, because the price is so damn low. And I'm sitting here thinking, damn, we're already at almost 1 cent. I just banked 100,000 for like $10. You know what I mean? But the only way that you can get these tokens is either by buying them or holding the coins, and then you just instantly start mining them. But the power of PTGC, like I said, is it's more unique in my view than a lot of these other inflationary tokens, because the trade-off isn't APY and having this set amount of APY. The trade-off is that the value is in the tokens themselves, because they mine and they can only go out of existence. They can only go offline.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Things that make the tokens valuable, and like you were saying, the tokens are the miner, to where in a lot of other situations, to be a miner of an asset, you don't actually need to help the price of a token whatsoever. And even if that miner was generating more APY, that doesn't necessarily directly correlate to the price of the asset that you're mining being worth more. But with PTGC, it's actually directly correlated. If volume picks up and those PTGC tokens are technically the miner, well, the only way you can actually get your hands on a miner is by buying more PTGC tokens, which then increases the price on itself, which then obviously benefits everyone who holds all those other miners, and then makes the miners more expensive. So as volume picks up on chain, like we have to remember is like we're on the chain that's pretty much no one knows about. It's currently 3 or 2 times less than SAC rate. And that's helping give PTGC these low prices, the low prices that they're at right now. But very, very quickly, the chain and PTGC can recover. And they'll recover in price, but also the volume can recover as well. And when the volume recovers, that means those miners are going to be generating more money. And that's also something that you need to price in to the equation. You get what I mean? Like you have to, there's 2 different factors that you're pricing in. The value that the tokens have, because all tokens have a value based on their liquidity and how many people want to hold them. But you also have to base the value of those tokens on the fact that they're the miners themselves. And if the volume picks up, let's say 10x, well, technically those miners should be worth 10x more, just naturally, because they're producing 10x the yield. And that has nothing to do with basic scarcity and, you know, just the fact that maybe more people want to hold them, etc.
Oh, that's exactly right. And like, for example, like 10,000 pTGC right now is $3.97, right? $3.97. As crazy as this is. But 10,000 at a penny is $100. You can literally put so what I'm saying is that if you know how this cryptocurrency is mathematically designed and you can formulate a guesstimation on what type of performance that you think that this blockchain will do over the course of the next 8 years, let's just put it out the next 2 cycles. If you're purchasing 10,000 tokens for $3.97, if it just went back to a 6x over our previous all-time high, you're talking about turning every $3.97 into a $100 bill. But that's like super nominal performance, right? So like when I'm looking at all the cryptocurrencies I can personally invest in on PulseChain, and then I look at ETH, and then I look at Solana, and then I look at all these other blue chips on other chains, there's nothing like the Grace currency. There's nothing that has these built-in mathematical mechanics that make me think, wow, not only is it not on a SUI chain that can be shut off, it's on PulseChain. And if Ethereum didn't roll back the chain for Gavin Woods when they had that multi-sig problem and he lost 150,000 Ethereum, PulseChain's never going to do that. Richard will never do that. That is his MO, right? And if all the liquidity in pTGC's liquidity pool is burnt, which means it can't be removed, like that hacker did on the deck, then being forward-looking, all I have to do is look at the performance and say, my God, I mean, I can buy 10,000 tokens for $4. This could just become astronomical, right? The math is, what I'm saying is the math is actually there to, we're in a land of speculation in cryptocurrency. If you're out of the top 20, you're in mid caps or you're in alts or means, you're in speculation wonderland. So the way that I think is, where are my speculations best being treated, right? Well, you know, you've got all these other things that you can look at, but after 20 months of watching this cryptocurrency and knowing it's on PulseChain, knowing that it'll never get rolled back, knowing that the capital's burned, and I'm looking at being able to buy 10,000 tokens for $4, and it was already only a 6x away from 100, massively underperforming. It's just something that I think people are massively overlooking, Zach.
Yeah, I think these prices can just disappear and never come back to these prices. And the system is ultimately designed to not really give people crazy discounts due to pTGC. Like, I think a lot of the discounts will come from the connected assets, like the blockchain itself that we're connected to, and just the market cycles. But there isn't any things in the system to give you the entry point that I believe was technically put into Bitcoin and Hex, for an example, to help with the adoption of it. Because the fact of the inflation, it's given people the time to find the asset. Well, in the early days, putting out a ton of supply and then having halvings, or, you know, what Richard just did, cutting the inflation. That's not happening here. It's literally impossible for it to happen here. So what then comes in turn is like, hey, yeah, you could probably sell a top and find a bottom if you're good at timing it and you know what you're doing. But very, very quickly, those can just disappear from you, right? Like we've seen it plenty of times where people have tried to double their bag and sell a good amount and then, buy it later, and then just very quickly it's left without them. And then you're just kind of standing there, watching it leave, and you're like, well, there isn't inflation coming out in the future. It's literally the opposite. And the token itself has its own ability to mine more of the asset. Volume's low right now, and it's increasing. We believe it's increasing. It is actually increasing, as Banana found. Why is this thing going to come back down? Is what you have to ask yourself.
Well, yeah,
we'll force it back down.
It's going to be really tough for that, given the fact that the cores are pretty much at bottoms, right? Like the thing sitting at $116 million market cap, the cores are at the bottom. The system's buying out of the pools like $15,000 worth of tokens every couple of days right now. So my point is that this really does have some very unique principles built in that are not found in any other cryptocurrencies. It's just a massively undervalued cryptocurrency. It's just mind-boggling. PulseChain does anything, and it's the right now. I feel like the analogy is like the train is still in the station, right? And like the engineers are all making sure everything's working and everything's good, but at a 3-4x over where we're at now, we hit sack rate and we start going up above sack rate, the train's going to leave the station, dude. And the reality will set in that, oh my God, these tokens are actually miners, right?
Yeah, especially if the volume picks up on chain, right? And people actually see the money and see the value generation happening, and they now realize, darn, it's 4 times more expensive for me to get that miner now. And then if it's doing its thing and buying, burn, supply, it's like, oh gosh, now it's 5 times. Oh gosh, now it's 6 times. Oh gosh, now I'm like sitting here thinking like, do I wait for this to come back, or do I just have to just grab it now at this new market price?
Yeah, so it's almost like the fee. If I look at it as a businessman, the fee on transaction, like if you're a miner, you have to have a building, you have to have all the equipment, you have to have the ASICs, you have to have somebody there to run it. You got to have everything there. If you're running a validator, you got to buy a good computer. You have to run that computer. You got to pay the electricity. You got to make sure that it's online, otherwise you'll get penalized, right? Hex was kind of the first of its kind where you can buy the token and you burn the token out of existence, and then you get replaced with a T-share, and then it ramps up against the T-share rate against the price of Hex, but you're illiquid in that stake, so you're not liquid. The other thing that's super beneficial is the liquid part of the yield. You're never illiquid in your asset, even though you're staked earning more tokens, which are more miners. So when you talk about it on this cryptocurrency, like when you go out and you do a market analysis on all the things and how they're designed, I just think the Grays is just a better design. I just think it's just, and that to me, it's the design of it and the 20 months of flawless operation on PulseChain. I'm just sitting here going, God, these tokens are undervalued because there's not a better design. I would love to hear a better design. Like, we'd probably buy it all up if there was a better design.
Yeah, having contracts built on top of a blockchain, like what Ethereum did, gave the ability to create some really amazing assets. And this is one thing that technically Bitcoin didn't get to be, because Bitcoin also had to be the blockchain, which gives it its own value, right? Like being the gas token on the blockchain is its own thing, but it had to have different properties built into it. But the fact that since we're built on an EVM chain and you're able to build smart contracts on the EVM chains, it gave us the ability to manipulate the smart contract in the ability to where it's maximized for growth potential, right? Literally tapping into the most basic idea of supply and demand. And this isn't actually possible to the extent with a blockchain, because you have to pay validators and stuff like that, to where we have this unique system to where we can actually fine tune a specific smart contract to be specifically made for the basics of supply and demand, which, if you want price to go up, you start reducing supply and you keep increasing demand, forces price up, and you can just build that within code, right? And obviously this is evolution of blockchain, and I'm sure it will just keep evolving over time. But I definitely think we're on the fronter end of like really designing these things in a way that's made for maximum price appreciation. There's a lot of factors within pTGC that I don't think people have fully recognized yet. And we're talking about them here on PulseChain, but the general public's going to find out. Probably it's still great entries in the grand scheme of things. Like, if you look at it like on an 8-year span, like it's probably going to be still great entry points, because the machine will just keep doing what the machine does. But for people who actually are lucky to be here on PulseChain right now and find, and this is just my personal opinion, no financial advice, but how lucky are we to be like here right now, to be in crypto, in blockchain, on PulseChain, and to have this asset that when we run the numbers, like, because we're all here just like nerding out on the thing and be like, hey guys, we've been running the numbers, and if this blockchain is remotely successful, like if you look at any of the top 10 blockchains, if it does 1/10 of those, like literally 1/10, this thing just becomes a monster. And like you said, you're able to buy, 30,000 of them for $3 or whatever it was.
Yeah, I just, we have that cognitive dissonance, right, in us, like where we're looking at something and we're just not valuing a thing properly. So.
Yeah, it can change super, super quick. You've seen throughout time, very, very quick, the market will value something at a certain rate for a very long time, and then one metric hits, and instantly it completely changes the product, right? And I do think, mechanically, it's actually not even a think. With the adoption of PulseChain equals a direct adoption of appreciation of PulseChain's price. It also equals an appreciation of PulseChain's volume. Those are the two key factors which is going to turn pTGC on, and it actually directly increases the prices as well. And the price can change like literally overnight. The idea people are playing with right now is, do I get into other assets on PulseChain? Do I get into, I only have so much money, blah, blah, blah. Well, really, none of that matters. Like, really, PulseChain could be up 5x tomorrow, and all these discounted prices, not only on pTGC, but a lot of other sustainable assets on PulseChain, can just be gone like that. Yeah, the non-sustainable ones will probably go back down, and you probably don't want those ones anyways because they're just sinking ships. But anything that's sustainable on the chain, literally the prices can be gone tomorrow.
I remember
real quick, Harmony, did you have anything? Any questions at all? I brought you up. Feel free to shoot them.
Yeah, for one question. Because I saw you have a liquidity pool with PW Bitcoin, which is around $490. What happens with PTGC when this goes way higher, like, I don't know, 5K, 10K? What happens to the price of PTGC because it's bonded, right?
Correct. Yeah. So PTGC is pretty much an index of all the blue chips, or what we believe the blue chips of PulseChain to be. So if any of these blue chips that we're connected to start to move up, it's going to help increase the price of PTGC for one. And then also that specific liquidity pool would increase in size as well. So our liquidity would increase as well in that specific pool. What also would happen is that specific pool will have volume, and then we generate revenue off of that specific pool as market makers fix that pool against our other pools. And then we generate revenue off of that, which then pays our users APY, and then buys and burns our own asset as well.
Yeah, because I was thinking, should I buy a little bit of PW Bitcoin or just buy PTGC? So I wasn't sure. What do you think? Should I have both or just buy PTGC?
I think that decision's yours. PTGC itself is literally an index of a lot of the blue chips, or most or all the blue chips of PulseChain. So by holding PTGC, you actually hold a portion of PWrap Bitcoin. You even hold a portion of real wrap Bitcoin. You hold a portion of PulseChain, Inc., PulseX, PDAI, Real Die. Like the list is probably like 20 tokens, pretty much all blue chips. So what you're going to get out of PTGC is literally the mean, the average of all the assets we're connected to, along with the specific growth of PTGC, which, you know, is obviously human interaction, like possibly you, like you're thinking to purchase right now, that will appreciate our price over those assets, giving us a multiplier. So pretty much what's going to happen in basics as adoption comes, let's say the mean, the average of all the assets we get is a 10x. This is a modest estimate, right? I'm sure you're thinking a lot more, but we'll use 10x. And let's say from human adoption of PTGC and the buy and burn built into the code, we also do a 10x with that. Well, that would mean if you're a PTGC holder, you would receive a 100x on your PTGC asset.
Okay, thank you. That was my question. Okay, I will buy more tomorrow.
Do you have any other questions while we're here, or was that the only one?
That was the only one, because I know the coin already. I am holding for half a year already, so I'm in, bro.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you're in. Thank you for coming up and asking the question. Yeah, I think PWrap Bitcoin had some good gains today. So like, that's what's nice about this system is every day is different, right? Some days PWrap Bitcoin's on a good move. Some days PulseX is on a good move. Some days Inc.'s on a good move. Like, I've literally watched the PulseChain community shift from every single RH ticker, which one's going to be the best, you know, and then also, you know, there's other narratives like PWrap Bitcoin going to $1, etc. Even slow days where everything goes down and, you know, nothing's really happening. But on every single one of these days, we're using all these movements to generate revenue, and that revenue goes to buying and burning our supply and making it deflationary and just keeping our system moving in the direction that we all obviously want it to go, which is up and to the right.
Yeah, the one of the most powerful aspects of the grays is that if you don't want to play the guessing game, and you're okay with earning the mean of whatever the X's do of the blue chips, of Richard's cores, of Richard's memes like most, and the bigger narratives on chain, PDAI, Teddy, all these other things, the DAO has the ability to, as you well know, take positions in those things and then earn the X's from those things. So, but the difference is that if you're in PWrap Bitcoin, or if you're in, you know, PulseChain or whatever you're in, you're not in a deflationary asset. you're not in an asset that's paying you APY, right? You're not in an asset that's revenue generating, that's literally making millions of dollars worth of PulseChain every year and 100% giving it back to the token holders. So if you can be exposed to the assets that you want in an index token that gives you access and that gives you exposure to those things, but then on top of that has a plus, 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 to me, that's just a no-brainer.
Yeah, for one more question. Let's say PulseChain does 100x. Will be the revenue on your ecosystem more, and you will generate more APY, right? And give it back to the holders.
Yeah.
Yeah, did I hear the first part right? Were you saying if the ecosystem in general does 100x? Is that what you said?
Yeah, and you will generate more revenue, and in the end, we get more APY on our holdings, right?
Correct. Yeah, what we see is more APY for the holders in dollar value. What you'd see is more buy and burn happening in dollar value, more money going to the DAO in dollar value. What we've actually seen is if the ecosystem were built on 100x's, and let's say we do a modest 2x, like basic number, like then our pTGC ecosystem would do a 200x. Just linearly, if what we're bonded to goes up 100x, naturally what our system should do is increase roughly 100x as well, because our liquidity would be 100x larger. So for one, you would be pretty much holding an asset that would have probably close to $1 billion in liquidity, which is pretty much unheard of at this point. And that's what's super unique about being here on PulseChain, is the fact that we're able to take advantage of the X multiplier. All these other tokens on other blockchains, they are acting off of an X multiplier, but you have to ask, what is that multiplier? How many X's is ETH going to do? How many X's is Base going to do? How many X's is Solana going to do? Is it 5X? Well, that's the multiplier. Like on PulseChain, we actually have the ability to do an extremely large multiplier that makes the numbers that seem impossible very easily possible, which then increases our liquidity. But then what you're saying, if the ecosystem does 100x, that should mechanically just increase our volume 100x. And we've actually seen it happen before that it actually has been more than that. I like to use the even number because the numbers that happened last time like seem really, really crazy. Like when PulseChain went up, I think it was 3x, our volume kicked up like 10x or something like that. Maybe Banana has the number written down, which then means the APY kicked up 10x, the buy and burn kicked up 10x, and the DAO fund revenue generation kicked up 10x. So you're 100% right. As PulseChain grows in value, it's going to not only increase our liquidity, but it's also going to increase our value generation that much as well. And then since the machine, this is kind of what we were talking about earlier, since the machine is generating more value, yeah, the price of the token is worth more because of its bondedness, but the fact that now those same tokens are generating 100x more value, that's going to give the tokens most likely a multiplier to their value as well, because the machine that you put your money in is now acting 100 times better. It's now generating 100 times the amount of revenue than when you entered into it.
Prairie, do you remember when we were running nominal numbers on, for example, what a whale position, what a shark position, what a dolphin position would earn in APY based off of like 5 million a day in volume, 10 million a day in volume? Do you have those numbers?
I think that's in Look Into pTGC, is it not?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not. You're the numbers guy, man. I was just wondering if you had the ability to pull that up or not.
Okay. I've got Look Into pTGC.com pulled up. The reflections analytics calculator and we can type in a volume rate, and it'll show us what the experimental wallet would earn at that volume. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah. So let's do like a shark position, not a whale. Let's just do a shark position at 5 million a day in volume.
Okay, give me 1 second. 1 second. Okay, shark.
And Banana, don't forget to multiply that number times 3, because most likely anyone that cares about APY is going to be staked and locked as well.
True. Okay, we have a shark position plugged in, $5 million in volume, and that shark would earn. Let's see. Give me a second here.
Yeah, in total.
In 24 hours, it would earn 3,220 pTGC. Yearly, he would earn $27,880
There you go.
in reflections, just reflections, not counting staking or locking rewards.
Yeah, we need the total, so multiply that times 3.
90,000, roughly, just short of 90,000.
Okay, so 5 million in volume, shark position, staked, locked. You're doing almost 100 grand a year in passive income.
Yes.
Can I ask how much dollars is right now a shark position?
Oh, that's a good question. And mind you, actually, that is a 403 million pTGC. So he's got a fuzz more than a shark position. And
That's fine. We're just we can do basic numbers. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so a shark position. Let me pull it up here.
Or maybe for the average user, 10K or 20K.
So a shark position is around 100K right now. A dolphin position's around 10K.
Yep.
So if you only had 10K, you could just divide that, pretty much making what the APY would be wouldn't be 100,000. It would be 10,000.
Yeah. So if you bump it up to 10 million in volume, that would be 30,000.
20 for a dolphin.
So if we went from 5 million in volume to 10 million, if you've got a dolphin position per year, that comes to what?
20,000.
Yeah, see, that's phenomenal, man.
And what that costs today is $10,000.
Yeah.
Roughly. So if you went back to shark, because a shark position is roughly $100,000. If we have 5 million in volume a day, that roughly pays out $100,000. It's almost 100% APY yearly. So if we got to $10 million in volume daily, that would pay roughly $200,000 a year for what costs you $100,000 today.
Yeah.
And then you can keep running it up, right? A whale position technically costs $1 million. Obviously, that's very far out of most people's budgets, but some people that is the budget. And again, if we're hitting $5 million in volume a day, that will roughly print you $1 million a year. If we're hitting $10 million a day, that will roughly hit you $2 million a year in passive income. And you can just keep multiplying it up like that. Obviously, that's dependent on how successful PulseChain is. If PulseChain does the numbers people believe it's going to do, these numbers will become very easy to hit in volume terms. What will be hard to hit is those positions, because you have to realize if PulseChain runs up 100x, well, now the cost for that shark position most likely just 100x'd as well. So that's where the opportunity is, knowing about pTGC today instead of knowing about pTGC possibly the revaluation of PulseChain, or, once PulseChain does those X's, the sad truth for those users is they're going to have to buy what the market price is at those times. Obviously, they're probably going to be taking less of a risk in the adoption curve of PulseChain. Technically, probably more risk as far as price because, you know, it might be closer to the top of the cycle. But that's what's unique about being on a chain before anyone even knows it really exists.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The arbitrage bots thicken the liquidity, so it's harder to dump the price, right? Later on.
So there's a couple things that thicken the liquidity. Every single transaction, either human or arbitrage bot, technically thickens the liquidity. There's a 0.5 fee on every transaction that goes to the main PLS pool. Also, the DAO constantly is adding to the liquidity, which it's been mainly focused on buy and burns lately, but it's been very focused on liquidity in the past. Most likely it will focus back on liquidity in the future as well. That's also increasing the liquidity. Other factors that increase the liquidity is price going up of pTGC. Obviously, when pTGC goes up in price, that means people are shoving assets into our liquidity pools and wanting pTGC out for an exchange. So that increases the liquidity. What also increases the liquidity, the blockchain we're built on going up in price as well, or our connected assets like you were asking earlier, PWrap Bitcoin or Pulse or PulseX. So there's tons of things that can happen that can obviously raise our liquidity. And 100%, when our liquidity goes up, it becomes that much harder to bring the price down. Technically, we have in pTGC like $5 to $10 million, depending if you want to include amplifiers or not. Let's say $5 million of very real assets in liquidity at a 100x of the chain. Well, that puts you at $500 million of liquidity. That's a crazy amount of liquidity. What's unique to our system about why it's okay to have that much liquidity, because a lot of people might say, whoa, that's too much liquidity. It's going to be hard to move the price up and down. For our asset, it will actually be very easy to still move up and down because all of our entire pTGC asset is connected to an asset that will be volatile. PulseChain, PulseX, Hex, Inc. So we will still have the movement, but we'll have tons of money backing us. And also we'll have all that liquidity put to work. So within most other assets on chain, the liquidity there is just sitting there dead for users to enter in and out. Within our system, all the money that's there in the liquidity is actually put to work because market makers will be fixing the price between other pairs, making it to where they're constantly making money themselves. Well, when those market makers are making money themselves, they're having to make money for our ecosystem as well, which then obviously buys and burns our own asset and keeps printing APY as well.
At the current LP, you could sell about $100,000 right into the LP, and you're probably gonna ding the chart by like 4% or something like that at the current LP, maybe a little bit more. So when PulseChain just does a 4x from here, I think on looking to pTGC, it's about $6.3 million of liquidity across the liquidity web. If you're already able to sell 100 G's for 5% or less slippage now, and you 4 or 5x the LP, well, now you're talking about 1%, right? The difference is that when people take profits, they have to pay the system to take profits. And when they do that, they're taking these tokens, which are the miners, offline, because the percentage of those tokens have to be removed from supply and sent to the debt address. And as people are actually earning tokens, a lot of the times people don't really understand that as a holder, I'm earning tokens, which means I'm earning miners, which means that I'm taking, unless I'm willing to push those miners back into the market, I'm constantly taking miners off the actual market every day, right? So as the price goes up, the liquidity web gets way thicker and weightier, which, to answer your question, makes it a lot harder to impact the price. And that's why I was saying earlier, like we're at that point right now where it's like the train is still in the station. The train hasn't left the station yet, guys, right? Because PulseChain has not left the station yet. But when PulseChain leaves the station for that first time, whenever that is, the train officially is leaving the station. And that means the liquidity, anyone who's locked into their positions now, when that liquidity web revalues, they're just in a freaking phenomenal position. Because there's nothing like this on any blockchain. There'll be nothing like this with this much burnt liquidity that's actually revenue generating liquidity that's 100% going back to the token holders. There's nothing like it.
Harmony, for some reason it kicked you down or you dropped down. If you have any other questions, feel free to request to come back up. If not, thanks for coming up, man. I appreciate that. He's coming back up.
I would like to ask the difference between pTGC and UFO. Is it the same system?
UFO?
Yeah, it operates off of the same system. So everything that we kind of just talked about, they both operate off of that same value generating mechanic with the LP web. The main difference between pTGC and UFO is pTGC is a single-sided staking model to where you can go step further, or you can go a few steps further into the ecosystem with staking and locking to earn additional APY. And the liquidity within pTGC is majority protocol owned and burnt or locked, right? So all of that liquidity is owned technically, or most of that liquidity is owned by the protocol, majority of it being burnt. UFO is a token built on top of the token. So the entire community of pTGC, which is the pTGC and UFO community, is actually providing all of the liquidity for UFO, but it's working in the same mechanic, right? It's using the market shifts up and down to generate revenue, and the value that's being generated is either paying the people providing liquidity, the people who are farming for UFO, or it's buying and burning pTGC, or it's paying the holders. So you do not have to provide liquidity to earn with UFO. You can just hold UFO and you earn UFO, and it's buying and burning UFO as well. So UFO is also hyper deflationary. You also just get paid for just holding. The big difference between the two is UFO is a farm that incentivizes liquidity providing, and pTGC is pretty much a single-sided staking model where pTGC, the protocol, owns the majority of the liquidity, but they both are the backbone of both assets is the liquidity web technology with large liquidity pools. UFO, I think, has close to like $8 to $10 million of very liquid assets backing it.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming up and asking your questions.
Have you heard about a beaver bot on Ethereum? Do you know what that is?
That just doesn't sound right, Barry.
Yeah, Bishop is asking. Can you ask him if he knows what the beaver bot on Ethereum is?
Yeah, I haven't heard of it either.
I haven't heard of that exact name, no. Maybe if he described it, I know of what it's doing, but I don't know what the beaver bot is now.
Can I ask something?
Yeah, keep going, Harmony. This is what these spaces are for. I appreciate you coming up and asking.
I'm holding both same amount pTGC and UFO. Is it better if I don't liquidity provide, just put the UFO into pTGC and stake it?
Say the question one more time for me. Sorry.
I'm holding the same dollar amount UFO and PTGC. Is it better for me just to put the UFO into PTGC? Because I'm not liquidity providing, so I can stake it.
But you're earning more UFO just by holding the tokens. So with that system, with UFO, you either provide liquidity and you earn PulseChain as a liquidity provider. As a holder of the token, just holding it, you actually earn more UFO. So you're actually farming more UFO just by being a holder of the token.
Yeah, so in that situation, and no financial advice, but this is what seems to work best for users. If you hold both UFO and PTGC, it does not make sense to really pair them together because they both earn good APY on their own. So you can literally just take your PTGC and stake it and lock it, and you can just take your UFO and just hold it, and you will earn APY off of both of those assets, and you will not incur any impermanent loss or fees for providing liquidity. It's better to just hold the assets liquid or staked on their own, not putting them together.
Okay, thanks. I can't speak loud. My girlfriend is sleeping.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you, Harmony, for coming up. I appreciate it. We have been going for 2 hours now almost, so please, if anyone has any more questions or comments, make your way up to the stage. If there is no questions or comments.
Yeah, so I just wanted to put it out there, Zen, just real quick, for anybody who has questions or comments, anybody who wants to have a conversation about the PTGC ecosystem, I am taking DMs and I am taking phone calls to do professional walkthroughs. I think that a lot of people don't like to come up in spaces, but I'm well known in the PulseChain community. I've been here since day one, and I'm qualified to help anybody that wants to have a conversation, has an onboard, has a question. Feel free to DM me, and I am taking actual phone calls, and I think right now is a good time to do that, to get those final market analysis is in and doing your own research and really understanding what this is. I think that this conversation was great tonight, Zen, because it really showed the uniqueness of the system and why these tokens, in my opinion, are massively undervalued.
That's amazing that you're doing that, Mando. I remember when I first came into the Grays and you jumped into a voice chat with me. I think it was privately. Anyhow, I had your ear for about maybe 30 minutes, and I just enjoyed it tremendously. And you helped me a lot when I first came in. So guys, that's a heavy offer. I don't know if you guys understand how heavy that is, but I'd jump on it if I was new. Because I did.
You did. I remember the conversation, and there's quite a few people in here that did as well. You know, people that are my friends and people that have been in the space for a long time. But there's something about the one-on-one conversations. I have no reason to BS anybody, and most people that know me knows I'm the exact opposite of that. I'm just here to educate and give you guys credible information. So, but I do think that the train is about to leave the station here shortly. And when the liquidity web of this ecosystem revalues the 3 or 4x from here, those people that are in, they're going to be locked into a very interesting situation. So feel free to DM me. Feel free to give me a follow. I'll follow you back. If you have sincere questions about the system, I am taking DMs and I am taking calls.
So just to make sure, Dolphin was 10K and Shark was 100K and Whale was million, right?
Yes.
For PTGC.
Yeah.
That's for PTGC.
Yeah. For
UFO is a lot cheaper. I don't know those numbers off the top of my head.
I do. I got them in front of me. For a UFO whale is about 240,000. A shark is 24,000. A dolphin is 2,400.
Nice. I'm a dolphin and UFO.
Good job.
Nice.
It's going to be something.
So it could be that it jumps a little bit more axis. Could it be that it's values at the same like pTGC, like same value?
Yeah, the assets that if you actually just go to like Dex tools and you just grab the contract address and you let the entire liquidity web pop up for you and populate for you, what you'll notice is that what's being done for pTGC is also essentially being done in the same fashion for UFO. The same pairings, the same assets, they're not being treated differently.
So it can catch up, right? A little bit in the value.
I mean, technically, we have to answer that yes. It's possible for it to catch up. It's possible for it to explode past it, right? It's possible for pTGC to go to the moon without it. But we don't know what's going to happen. But in terms of the reflexivity that you will get when the assets that are bonded with UFO and pTGC make their move, speaking specifically to that, you're going to see pretty much the mean on those assets. They're essentially the same liquidity web in terms of the assets that are being bonded with those assets.
Thank you.
Yeah, one thing to also pay attention to, Harmony, is UFO, as let's say it started gaining a little bit more success, and let's say it started catching up with pTGC. UFO has a portion of its fee structure to where the liquidity providers are actually contributing to the buy and burn of pTGC. So if volume or price momentum happens on UFO, it actually starts shoving pTGC up with it. So they tend to move. If you look at the charts, they actually tend to move very much in tangent with each other because it's a very close ecosystem. They're heavily bonded with each other and they're tied to very much the same assets. UFO actually helps with the price of pTGC as well. It doesn't happen necessarily back the other direction. pTGC doesn't technically buy and burn UFO or anything like that. pTGC's been out a little longer. It's also kind of the mothership of this ecosystem. So it is priced a little bit higher in value. There is no crystal ball that can tell you which one will perform better X's from this point right now. And that's just the honest truth. There's speculation. Some people speculate UFO's cheaper in market cap, so it's going to do more X's. That doesn't necessarily mean that much. That's just what they believe. You have to look at UFO. UFO has more liquidity than pTGC. So technically for UFO to do more X's from right here, it will take more value injected into it than pTGC. If you injected the same amount of money into pTGC and UFO, even though UFO is less market cap, it's more liquidity. So it would actually go up less X's. It also would go down less X's if there was a big sell-off in the future. So there are so many variables that is actually happening within these ecosystems. So it's impossible to tell you what the future holds. They both operate off of the same mechanic and the same style web. So I do believe they will move very similarly. And I believe they're both amazing products.
Well, they're also bonded in liquidity too. There's a massive liquidity pairing between pTGC and UFO for currently about $2.5 million.
Yes. Which drags them around together also.
Anything else? Yeah, we got anybody else?
No one else is requesting. I'm good to shut it down too. My son's been pretty bad this whole space, so I'm going to relieve my wife a little bit. I hear him screaming out there, causing a fuss.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Thank you for your time. Have a nice day. And good night or good day.
Yeah, Harmony, thank you for coming up and asking your questions. It definitely makes the space fly by, and it's nice to, hear from the community and, spend the space helping the community understand the product more. So thank you for coming up.
Yeah, I hope my questions help somebody.
They do. It's, some people just don't want to come up and ask, so I appreciate you asking them. And real quick before we go, what Mando was offering, helping privately, there is so much value to that. I'm very thankful that he's willing to even offer that, because I know what those private sessions hold, and there's a ton of value in them. And I think right now is a great time to take advantage of it, because when markets start moving and stuff gets crazy and possibly there's a long line out the door waiting for pTGC and to get information on pTGC, it might not be as easy to get in front of his desk, just because there might be a long line of people wanting to learn about pTGC. So if you have questions before the gates of PulseChain start to open and it's a rush in like an amusement park at starting time, it's a great time to learn about the product if you have the questions.
Yeah, I'm scraping every euro, dollar I have and put it in there.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Prairie. You guys have a good one, guys.
All right. See you guys. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Brown, I'll answer your question. Give me a second. And Duffy, Slice and Shank. Yeah, Mando's he the man. He the man. My spirit animal in this pTGC voyage. Are you like him? I mean, are you similar to like that kind of mindset, that really strong kind of personality? Just curious. Hey, Stylist, good to see you. Have you been here the whole time? Usually you're here on Saturdays, but I think you jump in on Mondays too sometimes. Anyhow, Brown, you asked, are you guys also bonded to liquid loans? Let's have a look. And the place that you can find this out is secretobank.com. Secretobank.com. I'll share my screen to show you guys. I don't know if we have a bonding with liquid loans. I really don't. But I'm going to sort these by liquidity. And it might not, we might have a pairing with liquid loans. And thank you, MCG. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's always good. But it may not be on this list, Brown. Let's see. It'd be LL or liquid loans. So far, I don't see a pairing with liquid loans. It would not surprise me if somebody made a pairing, though. So, yeah, and I think that's it for the questions. All right, guys. Voice chat tomorrow. That'll be Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific. If you guys want to jump on and talk to Zen again. And, guys, that offer for Mando to jump on a call, I mean, if you need some one-on-one, he will spend some time with you. And his time is valuable. So I take advantage of that. And then Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific, if you got new people, send them to my stream. I do an intro to pTGC and UFO on Wednesdays and Sundays. So send them over. All right, guys. Thanks. Have a good night and a good week. See ya.